Good evening. I call the August 6, 2024 special call board meeting of the Richland 2 School Board of Trustees to order. The agenda for tonight's meeting has been published and made available publicly. May I please have a motion regarding the approval of the agenda? And before we do that, I would like to have roll call to show that we are in compliance with the quorum. Mrs. Washington?
Present.
Mrs. Porter?
Present.
Mr. Trapp?
Present.
Mrs. Nash and Mrs. Agostini is not available to be with us this evening. Mrs. McFadden?
Present.
Thank you. Once again, the agenda for tonight's meeting has been published and made available publicly. May I please have a motion regarding the approval of the agenda?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Porter?
I move to approve the agenda for the August 6, 2024 special call board meeting.
The motion has been made by Mrs. Porter. May I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. McFadden. The motion has been made by Mrs. Porter and seconded by Mrs. McFadden to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Board members, please vote. And maybe I'll do a hand vote. We can take a hand vote if you're not signed on.
Voted. I voted in the affirmative.
Okay. Mr. Trapp, because I'm not able to see the vote.
Yes, affirmative.
The vote is 5 yes, no, 0 no. The motion passes. We will now move into item 3.1, executive session. May I have a motion to go into executive session?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Porter.
this is Mrs. McFadden.
I do apologize, Mrs. McFadden.
That's okay. I move to convene an executive session for the purpose of discussing employment recommendations.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made by Mrs. McFadden and seconded by Mr. Trapp to go into executive session. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Board members, please take a hand vote. And Mr. Trapp?
Affirmative.
Okay, Mrs. McFadden?
Yes.
Okay. The vote is 5 yes, 0 no. The motion passes. The board will now enter into executive session. May I have a motion to end executive session? The others are on mute. Unmute yourself. Board members, please unmute yourself.
Madam Chair,
Yes. Yes, Mr. Trapp.
I move that we adjourn executive session at 5:37 p.m. and resume public session.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second.
The motion has been made by Mr. Trapp, seconded by Mrs. Porter to end executive session at 5:37 p.m. and resume public session. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Board members, please vote. And we can do a hand vote if that works. Mr. Trapp?
I vote affirmative.
Thank you. The vote is 5 yes, 0 no. The motion passes. We will resume. The board will now vote on items discussed. We've already done that. May I have a motion regarding employment recommendations for the 2024-2025 school year?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mrs. McFadden.
I move to approve the employment recommendations as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Mrs. McFadden and seconded by Mr. Trapp. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, board members, please vote. And we can take a hand vote. Mr. Trapp,
Affirmative.
the vote is 5 yes, 0 no. The motion passes. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Trapp.
I move to adjourn the special called board meeting, August 6th.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been properly passed by Mr. Trapp and seconded by Nikki Porter. Board members, please vote.
I vote in the
sorry.
affirmative.
Yes. Please vote. The motion is 5 yes, 0 no. The meeting stands adjourned. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.